And administratively and legally, those were the bases of the council's actions, and that takes us to where we are today.
So, we've reviewed processes that we have followed that led us to today. At this point, there's no other action that's being contemplated, and we certainly welcome you to take to the floor and speak to us. You're allowed 3 minutes each, and you do need to make sure that your comments during this portion are specific to the Fenimore case, because Chairman Riley is recused because of his position as Mayor of Roxbury. We've already had the public hearings, or the public speaking portion for other matters. So again, specific to Fenimore. Somebody like to speak? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Melissa Datchison. I am a resident of Roxbury Township, and I first would like to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak. By the news that was just shared by the attorney, I'm very disheartened. I moved to Roxbury less than 3 years ago to live closer to my nephews, Matthew, who's right here, and Kevin, who reside with my sister and brother-in-law in Poets Peak, which is a residential neighborhood. Their home is approximately less than a half of a mile from the toxic landfill. Spending time with Matthew and Kevin has always been a priority for me prior to even moving to Roxbury. We have spent countless hours outside playing freeze tag, riding bikes, having football and baseball catches, fishing, swimming in Horseshoe Lake, as well as playing volleyball at Horseshoe Lake. The list of outdoor activities is endless. One of our favorite pastimes is to go hiking, explore the unknown. While I could go on and on, I will keep my story short because, as the saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And Matthew's going to quickly pass around the picture. This is my nephew, Kevin, 4th grade, Matthew's brother, at the last part of the hike to the infamous Cliff's Ice Cream, April 2012. We then hiked back. Note, the path we followed is parallel to the toxic landfill, which I was not aware of at that time. Kevin lives in Poets Peak, less than half a mile of the poisonous site. And then if you flip it over, you can see Matthew there, who was in 6th grade, and he's in 8th grade now. Like I said, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You can fill in the rest of the story by looking at the expression on their faces. I'm going to say it's one of the most treasured experiences I have had with both of them. Then something very sad and extremely troubling on so many levels happened. Again, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Please do not let the smiles fool you on the first picture. The smiles we had were a symbol of pride as well as hope for the following day, August 22nd, 2013, which was the rally that took place at Horseshoe Lake, a protest to the DEP's handling of the poisonous landfill. The picture on the back, when you flip it over, tells the story of the day of the protest. And once again, my nephews helped with that rally. They were out in the streets literally begging for people to come in and save our community. What's wrong with these pictures? I will tell you, it's pretty simple. The DEP, who reports to Governor Christie, has allowed Roxbury Township to be poisoned and is continuing to do so. On a personal level, Governor Christie has robbed and is continuing to rob my nephews of their childhood, as well as thousands of children in Roxbury Township. Time flies by and Matthew and Kevin will never, ever get these years back, and neither will I with them, because we no longer do this in our community. I no longer take them on hikes and go to places that we did. Given their age, there's only so much they can do, but the real point is they shouldn't have to do anything, as they did nothing wrong. Governor Christie has the ultimate power to make this right, for not only my nephews, Matthew and Kevin, but for all of the children of Roxbury Township. The first thing he could do is to direct the DEP to dig for the core samples so we know exactly what was allowed to be dumped by the DEP under his watch. We have a right to know what poisonous chemicals we are breathing in addition to the hydrogen sulfide and sulfur dioxide. There's proven, if you did your research, that there is C&D material dumped from Hurricane Sandy in this landfill. And there's tons of data to prove that. So we know of hydrogen sulfide, we know of sulfur dioxide. Our town council has tried to work as hard as they can. They went to the court to try and get core samples to see what else is in there. They were denied. Why? To me, it's common sense that the DEP, who reports to the governor, Governor Christie, they have something to hide. And it's so unfair on so many levels and so wrong that residents do not know what's in the landfill there.
Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you that.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And I hope the visual lasts in your mind forever.
Somebody else like to speak, gentlemen? With the mustache.
I like it, right?
You got a little color on me, though.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm Victor Dean from Ledgewood, and I understand what the lawyer is saying about the law, but how can it be a law for the DEP and Governor Christie to come in and poison the whole town? How can this be a law? I mean, it's not imaginary. This is really happening to the town of Roxbury. We were literally dying in our homes. I got doctor's reports that says leave. I got 4 generations in my house. You don't just pack and leave. I mean, this man is killing us, bottom line. And if you see the tape where Mr. Collins was speaking with him at a meeting, he was the most arrogant, unbelievable spectacle I ever seen from a governor. Watch the film, you'll see exactly what I mean. I mean, our health is, my granddaughter, 30 years old. This just started a year and a half ago. I have heart and lung disease, getting steadily worse. From last year to this year, 50% worse. What's next year going to bring for me? My wife has cirrhosis of the liver, getting steadily worse. How can the law allow them to come and poison us? Kill us. Bottom line, we're dying. The law's going to allow this? That's about all I got to say, gentlemen. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
A little brain up mustache.
Yes, standing in the room, please. And I'm sorry if I may just, I'm just going to ask you to state your name for the record, and I'd like to do that.
Yeah, Barbara Giaquinto, just need my name.
And your residence.
Yeah, in Ledgewood, New Jersey. So this is a tough council because you have people up here who say, why are you protecting land? Because it's my land and I want to use it. And then you have us saying, we want you to protect the land that was not a brownfield, but that became a brownfield. I'm not sure how it became a brownfield. Mr. Davis said something about the DEP made it a brownfield at one point. So I guess they have criteria for that? Is that what you meant? They have criteria for that? Okay. So that's a little bit of a question mark in our plate here, is how it became a brownfield, so I'm just kind of putting that out there. Also, I just wanted to ask you, because I've never really been here before, I never even knew this council existed before I got involved in the smell. And I was just wondering, is your function to protect the Highlands? Is that, I'm not sure, is your,
Well, this is an opportunity for you to make statements. We don't
yeah.
do questions
Oh,
and
this is a
answers.
question, because sometimes it is. Okay. All right, so you're not sure if that's what you do or not, okay. But anyway, so I just wanted you to be aware, I'm not sure how much jurisdiction you have over the DEP, and probably none. But when I went to the soil conservation meeting, the guys there, they're very specific. They really work right within the law. I mean, they really say, this is what we can do, this is how we can do it. But the DEP would not give a permit to Richard Bernardi to go out in what's called the berm zone, which is mean he could only develop a step to a certain point in phase 1. But the DEP has issued themselves this permit to do this, to do this landfill cap. And I just want you to be aware of that, because I don't think any of you were at that meeting. And so now the soil conservation men and women have to redesign the area and try to catch some of that runoff that's going to be happening, because the DEP is actually permitting themselves to do what they wouldn't allow Richard Bernardi to do. And I just don't understand that kind of behavior in people who are supposed to be protecting our resources and our environment. I just wanted you to be aware of that, because that's your job to know these things. Am I right about that?
If you look into the act, there's a very well-defined series of goals and objectives and statutes that we have to enforce.
Okay, so I can find out by going online, whatever. Okay, but if you can help us in any way, because it really is very smelly there, and if there's something you could do, if you have any kind of a power to have the DEP kind of take a step back and reconsider what they're doing in the long term, I would really appreciate that. And I know the whole community would too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening again. My name is Dave Pfeiffer. I'm with the Association of New Jersey Environmental Commissions. I appreciate Mr. Davis's succinct summary of the events as they may have transpired at this particular project, but I do think that it is an important issue for this council. Assuming that the landfill is capped, cleaned, and closed to the satisfaction of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, it would still have to be consistent with the Highlands policies. That's what your regulations say. My question, or my plea, is that the council and its staff should be actively involved with the DEP to monitor and provide input into that capping and cleaning project as it goes along, or you may end up with something that you don't know, something that you don't understand, and it's going to make it much easier for you to find it consistent with the Highlands if you're at the table with the department. I have some experience with landfill capping and closure. I don't believe, from my experience, that what the DEP is engaged in there is what you might call best practice. When we worked with one particular landfill in Chester and Washington Townships years ago under Superfund, the amount of diligence, care, and planning and project logistic evaluation that went on was far superior to what we're seeing at that site today. And I think if you want a result that is consistent with the Highlands, you need to be at the table regularly with the DEP, reviewing their designs and understanding what it is they're proposing to do. We have air problems, we know. We may have water problems. I certainly believe that that landfill is worse than the stuff that was put on top recently. There's 50 years of unregulated dumping in that thing. So I think you need to be careful, and I would again renew my request to remove the redevelopment designation from that until the landfill is capped, clean, and closed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Olivera, and these are my two children, Matthew and Alexis, and we live in Ledgewood. I come here today as a mother, very very worried. Excuse me. I live in fear every day for these children. I don't know what the future's going to hold for them in Roxbury. As it is, I need to drive them to school and pick them up every day. They can no longer take the bus. My son suffers from chronic nosebleeds, chronic headaches. This summer will be the first summer that they will not take part in the Roxbury playground, because last summer, for the 5 weeks that the program ran, my son was at the doctor constantly with the nosebleeds and the headaches. I fear the day we get the call from the school that our children have to be evacuated because the levels are so high. And that is a fact. It can happen. The levels have been high, where the kids have been in lockdown in school, where they're not allowed outside. What type of life is this for our children? It's not. Something needs to be done in Roxbury. We need help. We are human beings. We are parents. We're trying to provide the best for our children. And what's happened there has been nothing of our fault. It's just drawn on our life. So I just ask and I beg someone to help us, because we don't know where to turn anymore. Thank you.
Next speaker? Yes.
Good evening, I'm Ken Collins, I'm from Andover. I appreciate your clarification, Attorney Davis, of a lot of the questions that I was going to ask at the beginning. At the last meeting, the Highlands Councils, you stated that the NJHC designated an area of Fenimore landfill for redevelopment in 2011, contingent upon adequate remediation and final closure. And you went on to say that all that did was to make that property eligible for exemption number 15. And before this meeting, you explained how you believe that made the property eligible for exemption number 15. And I do not believe that makes it eligible for exemption number 15. I believe you're incorrect. And I believe that this council broke the law by allowing that exemption to move forward. So I'm putting you out on the carpet right now because you broke the Highlands Act. You broke the law that you were here to uphold by allowing that exemption when it does not qualify. And you can try to justify that any way you want, but you are wrong. So your explanation of how exemption 15 was granted is definitely inadequate, and it protects your butts, but it doesn't do anything for us. At the last meeting, you said you were going to look into whether or not you had the authority to rescind the redevelopment area designation, and I didn't hear anything about that from you. Before this meeting, I was wondering if you looked into that, and if you have the right to rescind that. I was hoping you would get back to us at this meeting with that information, but you did not do that, so hopefully you can address that. And also, if you would provide us with the resolution. You said it was from what date? I'm sorry, I missed it. Can you answer that?
Resolution.
The resolution that allowed it to be classified as a ground.
Certainly provide you with a copy of the resolution following.
It's on the website. It's Resolution 2011-35. All the council's resolutions are on the council's website.
October 13th, 2011.
So I hope that from the testimony of all the people from Roxbury, that everyone on this council has come into a very close understanding of the repercussions of the decisions you make here all the time, because these people are suffering as a result of your decisions. You should not have allowed this brownfields designation to go forward, and in my eyes, you are the guilty parties for allowing this landfill to accept new waste. That does not take away from DEP's responsibility to make sure that what goes in there is safe, which they failed as well, and they broke the law. But that doesn't relieve you of the responsibility for the laws that you are here to uphold, and I believe you broke. And I and the people of Roxbury who are here tonight do not understand how you could grant exemption number 15. We believe that granting it was illegal, in violation of the Highlands Act, and we ask you to provide us with a detailed explanation and legal justification for the granting of this exemption. What we heard tonight was not adequate, and does not support what you say it does, Attorney. That's all I got. Thanks. See you next month.
My name is Mary Emery. I live in Ledger, New Jersey. Since this is open, my asthma has gotten so bad. Like I said last time, I am on 3 inhalers a day. This is the gas mask I need to wear in my own house. In order to go around my house, I have to wear this gas mask because of the fumes from Fenimore. I also have to wear this driving down Route 10 until I get into Randolph, past Salerno Dodge, with all these people staring at me, wondering if a police officer is going to pull me over because I'm wearing this. I sit up in my room by myself when I'm home with an air purifier, 4 walls and an air purifier. To communicate with my family, I use a telephone and ask them to bring stuff up to me so that I don't go into an asthma attack. I cannot continue to live like this, and I cannot afford to move. Something has got to be done, and somebody has got to help us. The people of Roxbury need help. And I'm sorry, Mr. Attorney, but something has to be able to be done. I'm sorry, something has to be able to be done. You have to look into this further, because I feel that somewhere there is a loophole that can be found. I cannot continue wearing the gas mask to drive and to walk around my own house. And I cannot continue to live in my bedroom 24/7. Thank you.
Flanders. I'm probably going to leave this with you guys because I might be real close to that 3-minute time limit. Respectfully as well, I'd like you to consider reading the letter of the law a little bit closer, especially looking at Part 81K of the Highlands Act, and that that specific clause does not begin with the words "the department." It actually is a little bit more encompassing, and it may give the Highlands Council a little bit more jurisdiction than what they truly believe that they have. But we're all here today pleading for your help. Mistakes have been made by all parties involved in the Fenimore remediation, but just like your brethren, the Highlands Council down south, we were hoping that the Highlands Council would fight for our water and our health up north. The cursory and little researched DEP ACO that allowed a felon to turn an arguably undisturbed brownfield into an active C&D landfill has put the Highlands, its water, and its residents at great risk. The emergency order only allowed for hydrogen sulfide gas remediation, but the DEP is now engaging in taxpayer-funded cover-up of their past mistakes and putting our health in the Highlands at risk. It's basically, they're trying to hide all their past transgressions. The current plan is a permanent closure, and they're overstepping their emergency order by remediating to standards that don't conform to the Highlands Act, the Regional Master Plan, or the water anti-degradation laws. According to test reports, methane is also now a major concern, as it was recorded at really high combustible levels at some of those wells that are pulling off the hydrogen sulfide, and the scrubbers just don't mitigate methane. So under your responsibility to implement the Highlands Water Protection and Planning Act, respectfully, the residents of Roxbury and everybody, we're requesting that at a minimum that you guys undertake or join the state legislature in a scientific bipartisan investigation of the DEP's past and present activities surrounding Fenimore. And you know, sometimes you guys put together special committees other than your normal 4 standing committees. If it takes that, we would hope that you would consider that as well. The brownfield designation, you know, arguably inappropriately granted, as well as the redevelopment, was all based on a house of cards, a set of assumptions that you guys used during your staff review process that really no longer applies. And I'll try and speed through this. You know, a de minimis impact on water resources. Well, this new scrubber that the DEP is putting up there is going to use 60,000 gallons of water per day. That's enough water for Poets Peak. Think how much water that is for all the surrounding farms down Route 206. I mean, that's a lot of water. The capping area that they're capping is greater than what the law allows. Think of all that impermeable area that's now there and all the stormwater runoff and the mitigation systems that are going to need to be necessary, and all the downstream water wells that are put at risk, the trout brooks down in Ledgewood, and even the downstream Meriden River. Another assumption was that there would be minimal interference with the natural functioning of animal, plant, and other resources. You know, it became really apparent early in the project, as far back as 2011, that there were issues with the solar array aspect of this project. And despite it all, everything went forward. You know, acres of trees have been clear-cut, endangered habitats for bats and other animals are now gone. And if you've been up to Fenimore around there, nothing lives there now. Or if it does, those poor ducks that drink out of the leachate pond, they probably don't live for very long. And another one was minimal feasible alteration or impairment of the aquatic ecosystem. Keep in mind that at Fenimore, there's no underliner. All that goes down directly below it is you know, californ soils and sandy sediments that just allow all kinds of leachate to permeate down through the water table. You know, that's just uncontrolled leachate and stormwater runoff. And as people have said, there's other organic waste in there now. Asbestos has been rumored. You know, toxic stuff from Hurricane Sandy, and all of this was supposed to come from DEP-regulated waste facilities. How did this slip through the DEP? You know, who's watching the watchman at this point? The rest of the items here, I'm going to skip over, and I'll leave this with you guys if you're interested. But I just wanted to say that even in, you know, you had a public prior session for comments earlier, you know, back when this project started, and it seemed like the township was there, and maybe the Sierra Club was there, and David Pfeiffer was also there. And you know, we don't trust the DEP, you know, when it's their own mistakes that they're remediating. You know, basically now the DEP is acting as a licensed site remediation professional, and to be held to higher standards than what they're currently behaving at. And David Pfeiffer had some notes in that public review session that I'm not sure that everybody's maybe aware of. The site is located in a sensitive hydrologic position. Those underlayers that I previously spoke of cannot be relied upon to contain leachate. The leachate pond that is there at the bottom, it's not a properly constructed water impoundment. It has no formal spillway and is located actually on a boundary with municipal parking lands.
Sorry, you're going to have to wrap it up.
All right, I'll wrap it up. So let me just one more thing. Mr. Pfeiffer said, allowing redevelopment decisions to be driven by private applicants is contrary to the concept of comprehensive regional planning and is likely to result in uncoordinated, unwise, and possibly incomplete projects scattered throughout the Highlands region. So as you see, what Mr. Pfeiffer predicted has come to pass. Longer-term contamination is still a real possibility due to the ineptness of the DEP. Please help us uphold the spirit of the Highlands Act. Maybe look at Part 81K in any manner you are able. Help us stop them from making a bad situation worse, and investigate the series of events that led to this so justice can be served and that it doesn't happen again. Thanks for your time.
She wants to take
Hi, my name is Brenda Clark. I live in Ledgewood, several hundred yards from the landfill. How painful is it when love goes wrong? Authors, poets, musicians, and others have addressed this near universal experience. Their work usually helps us when we find ourselves in the throes of this potentially devastating experience. I've had a long-standing love affair with New Jersey. A true Jersey girl and proud of it, Springsteen fanatic, graduated from Rutgers. What do you mean, why do I live here? It's the best state ever, period, kind of love affair. But for the first time, for me, it's over. If you live in New Jersey, you're probably somewhat aware of the stories of corruption in our state. If you're lucky, none of that corruption crosses your path or the paths of your loved ones. If you're not so lucky, corruption can find its way to your doorstep, and love ends in a decidedly ugly fashion. Like the most difficult love who wreaks havoc in your life with dishonesty and self-serving interests, and leaves you with nothing but rawness, pain, and bewilderment. Fenimore Solar Project hasn't been a failure. Fenimore project has been a spectacular failure. Normally, when a project fails, at least in a high-quality organization, it's discontinued. Discipline is applied if necessary, and restitution is made to anyone unfortunate enough to get caught in the crossfire. In the case of Fenimore, not only is the failure being perpetuated and allowed to become an ever larger failure, but this failure was caused by the people who are supposed to serve us and protect us. Those of us unjustly caught in the crossfire of this failure are suffering tremendously because of it, as you've already heard. Some of the things we're dealing with, in addition to the health effects you already know about, are a gamut of emotions, including fear, anxiety, stress, anger, frustration, sadness, depression, helplessness, confusion, loss, grief. I could keep going on. We've lost our security, and when breathing causes fear, something is terribly and unjustifiably wrong. We've lost our freedom to do something as simple as open a window on a warm night, or sit outside on our decks or on our porches. We've lost the value in our homes, for most of us the biggest financial investment we've made. We've lost the ability to protect our children, because we can't protect them from what's in the air, or from what may be leaching into our soil, or our water, or in some cases, possibly even our basements. My 10-year-old little girl has developed some very severe headaches, at least one of which landed her in the emergency room so far. I'm very proud to say that my daughter became a state champion gymnast last year at the age of 9 years old. So far, she's doing New Jersey proud. New Jersey is abandoning her. If you saw something that was harming a child or about to harm a child, and you had the power to do something about it, you would do it, right? Without a moment's hesitation, I hope. We, as residents caught in the crossfire of this failed project, have spent countless hours doing our homework and trying to make our voices heard. In doing so, we've met with silence, a lack of cooperation, dishonesty, a lack of accountability, a lack of transparency, attempts to manipulate the public's awareness about impacts to the community, and attempts to discredit us. And that's been done by Governor Christie, the DEP, the DOH, and our own town officials. Even putting all that aside, what boils down to simple common sense is that you can't develop a proper landfill remediation plan when you don't know what's in the landfill. Our elected officials are actively engaged in sweeping this issue under the rug. If they're doing so to maintain their positions or for some political or other gain, the irony is that they would gain so much more by actually doing the right thing. I married a highly analytical engineer who tends to see the world in terms a little more black and white than I do. We've often discussed shades of gray when I didn't see the world in quite the same black and white or right or wrong polarities that he might. He'd be very proud of me today because I can say with absolute conviction that this is wrong. This is wrong on so many levels. I'm not against revenues. I'm not against responsible development or properly dealing with sites that need remediation. But as soon as one life is put in harm's way, the price is too high. Period. With the mountain of issues that smell even worse than the landfill itself in this case, Governor Christie and the DEP need to be stopped immediately so a thorough investigation can be done into this colossal failure. I posted a joke on Facebook a while back aimed at the government. It said that what we need is a department of common sense. Even without cover-ups, questionable ethics, cronyism, and well-established risks to public health and safety. Again, it's just common sense. You can't develop a proper landfill remediation plan when you don't know what's in the landfill. Please help us stop this insanity and help us call for an investigation into this mess. Thanks for listening to us today.
You can only speak, I didn't recognize you, ma'am.
Okay, Jim Riley is right there.
Ma'am, I didn't recognize you.
Well, you should recognize Jim Riley right there. If he's
Ma'am?
right there, invite him in.
Ma'am, please, don't do this. It's been very civil. I've given you a lot of leverage with time. If you continue this way, I will ask for you to be removed. We will not allow it. I will not allow it. Everybody will have an opportunity to speak, but please don't do
Can we
this.
please shut the door now? I mean, if it's.
Ma'am, I've asked you very politely. Yes, Ellie.
No comment.
Sir, you do not have jurisdiction to touch that door.
Why can't you shut the door?
Funny.
Because,
Funny.
Why can't you shut the door?
because we're leaving the
I'm
door
home. My
open.
wife
It
is
is a
home.
public meeting, sir. We're leaving the door
He's
open.
not supposed to be in here, but he's allowed to listen from there.
Ma'am, don't turn this into a show.
It's a video show.
Yes, Ellie.
My name is Elliot Ruga. I'm the Senior Policy Analyst for the Jersey Highlands Coalition. And what you're hearing about today is not something that happened to a community in the Highlands. It's something that is happening now, and it's ongoing, and it is a tragedy. The people of Roxbury, since 2011, have stood by and watched this situation occur that they had absolutely no control over, and they are being victimized currently today by. They have spoken, they have begged, they have pleaded with every level of government that is elected to serve them, and not one is standing up to demand what happened and how can we stop this. Today, they are here to ask the Highlands Council, not to find out, well, maybe we can get involved, maybe we can't get involved, maybe. They are begging for help. This is an opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Kathy Panetta. I live at 14 Meriton Avenue in Ledgewood, about 5 houses down from Marion. I'm sorry, I'm a language arts teacher by trade, so I'm a bit of a storyteller. When I was 36, I was given 2 blessings in life. My son was born, who's now 24. And later on that year, I was found to have breast cancer, and on Pearl Harbor Day that December, I put a smiley face. And thank God that He gave me an opportunity to raise my children and get rid of the cancer and move on with our life. I then started a procedure of health testing to find out how I could make my immune system strong so that I would never have that shadow to worry about again. I started having blood testing done by very specific doctors just to see what I was reactive to. I'm one of those strange environmentally reactive people that canary in the coal mine kind of thing. One of the things it tested was formaldehyde, and at the time I didn't know that dryer sheets that I was using to make our towels nice and fluffy had formaldehyde in them. So I haven't used them for years, because if I do, God forbid, my husband put them in the sheets when we're stripping the bed. I'm up with a headache, pounding, and a stomach ache, and the room's spinning, and I have to leave. I can't be around formaldehyde. Last August, React raised the money. We all chipped into the pot and had air testing done, and found the formaldehyde was 100 times above the normal level for up there. So you can guess how I'm feeling. My headaches are to the point now that I can't even watch TV. I can't look at a computer screen. I can't read the mail. I have to try to leave my home for the day and just come home and make dinner and try and get through the night before I can leave again to just try to clear out my head and get away from the formaldehyde. So I've had this testing done every year. And this year, in August, I had it done along with another little blessing. When I turned 40, I found out I was pregnant. Of course, we'd given everything away. It was a total surprise. My daughter came 3 months premature, 2.5 pounds. She's 19 now. And when we moved to Ledgewood, she was 3, and our very favorite thing was to go in the backyard in Drake's Brook and flip rocks and find crawfish and see what we could catch. We were real careful around the brown trout that would go scooting and skimming around the rocks, because it was
ground trout protected, and I was thrilled that I had such clean water because I knew that they only lived in clean water, unlike the water snakes that we also tried to stay away from. My daughter's been really sick over the past year as well. She's down to 82 pounds. So this past August, she and I tested with this $500 test that isn't covered by insurance because we needed to get well. And I've been doing it about every 3 or 4 years during my life just to see what I need to avoid because I react to normal things. A lot of us do and you don't know it. I tested positive for sugar, which is usual, rice, sulfite, bisulfites, which when the report came out and I read it, is sodium dioxide, and cyclohexylamine, which wasn't in the 2010 report. None of these big words were in that. It was just things like butter, chicken, you know, the normal things. My daughter Nikki started having dizziness, constant vertigo, nausea, like almost like she was morning sick, up in the night with intestinal spasms. She still has that. It's been over a year. We've been to GI doctors and they don't know what else to do with her. She's down to 82 pounds and trying to go to college full time. She tested for chicken egg whites, blackberries, blue dye number 2, yellow dye number 6, yellow dye number 5, and carbon tetrachloride. Excuse me. Why is there carbon tetrachloride there? It came from the landfill. And a lot of these people that have asthmatic symptoms, it's not just from what they think, the wallboard. Oh, by the way, I'm a celiac. Wallboard is made with gluten, wheat gluten. So I'm also inhaling that. So I'm feeling achy. I put on weight from all of the inflammation that I'm trying to deal with, just trying to stand because I can't get away from the gluten, even though I have $700 of air purifiers in my home and carbonated filters for all of the water in my house because we have well water.
Need to ask you about
Metasulfite, bisulfites, and sulfites can cause severe allergic reactions to sensitive individuals, resulting in breathing difficulties, wheezing, asthma, hives, severe itching, nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, cramping, headaches, and in some cases, anaphylactic shock and death. Asthmatics, like Mary, and especially steroid-dependent asthmatics, are particularly sensitive to sulfites. So 10% of the population is asthmatic, and an estimated 2 to 10% of all asthmatics are sulfite sensitive and are marked to have severe reactions. And Mr. Alstein, this really broke my heart last summer. I'm an organic gardener. My husband's lifespan has been increased by years because I like to play in the dirt and pull weeds, I swear. I raised all of my tomatoes like I do every year, looking for the breeds that would fight the insects and the blights and the funguses and all the bacterial specking stuff that we get in our area. And I put my seedlings out and then I can the tomatoes and make my own sauce and make my own spaghetti for the family and try and eat healthy. Last year, for the first time, all my plum tomatoes, I raised all these really cool kinds. The top of them had big blister burns on them. And when I cut them open, they were hard inside. So I brought them to Rutgers Cooperative Extension Service like we have over the years. And they said it was not a disease, it wasn't an insect, and it wasn't a fungus. So I looked up other things and I realized it was blister burns from sulfuric acid. The morning dew that is so refreshing to us in the summer walking through it barefoot had reacted with the sulfur in our air now and formed sulfuric acid, which burned the tomatoes and made them inedible. Our children are breathing that. We're breathing that. If it ruined the tomatoes, what's it doing to these precious little lungs?
Thank you for sharing.
I just asked if you could follow your regional master plan and see that the site is congruent with the master plan for Highlands areas. If you could do that, it would help us tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody else like to speak? Yes. In the back. Yes.
Gargiulo, 17 Lincoln Drive, Flanders, New Jersey. After all the professional arguments presented to the DEP and the town officials, the DEP will not truck out the toxic material that the Strategic Environmental Partners trucked in to our town of Roxbury. They dumped illegal toxic fill by the tons. Our town first started to smell the odor of H2S, and it was impossible to breathe here at times. No one listened to our call for help. I wrote an open letter to Governor Christie in the Daily Record. I told him that our people were getting sick, to please help us. Governor Christie had been looking for sandy funds for boardwalks and beach cleanups. I wrote to him and pleaded for our town that we needed sandy funds to just live in our town again. We needed to help chuck the mess out before winter came upon us, and we would be left in the background. We needed to act before it was too late. We wanted our town clean once again. That was October 213, that the letter was there for several months. But if Governor Christie would have met with Roxbury and the reactor, which we had been begging him for months and months to come and meet with us, talk with us, and see what he could do for us. And just time went on and on and on, and our land just got left behind and developed into this problem. It was about 6 months later from that letter that I found out I had cancer. The year before, my test was perfect. I thank God that it was early stage cancer and treatment worked, but it was not easy. Yesterday I had my checkup and I'm doing very well. I have no life-changing effects from the cancer, but there's always a fear, as you heard, that it might come back. I do not want anyone to go through this, and they should not have to. I want a fair chance, and I want everyone here to have a fair chance living here, not to get cancer on that mountain. We do not know what we're dealing with in Roxbury. We do not know how to protect ourselves. I do not want to live with the H2S toxic poison that we've been exposed to for over 2 years. It's unfair. You know, I live a quarter of a mile from the site. We need the core samples, and to not allow us to have them is criminal. Will you help us? Will you stand with us and truck this out of Roxbury and help in any way you can to make that happen? We are all in this together. We know that cancer shows up in landfills. We know that, I just heard from Compton Plains that there were so many deaths and problems and 30 years of problems when I capped their landfill. And they had to reopen that landfill. The cap didn't work. And I think in Chester, they capped that landfill and they had to go back, and that was another 25 years before they needed the water. You found out the water that they needed was there. Capping isn't the answer. We need to truck it out. We wouldn't want to have 25 to 30 years of suffering like those two landfills in those towns. If you could help us, it would change all our lives. Many facts have changed from when the decision was made to cap the landfill, when it first came out with this. There's a lot of work done by our experts, the mapping that held up that trucking. They had a map out there that said that we were going to contaminate in 30 towns. Everything was wrong, and that would come out proof from professionals. So that fear is not there anymore. We need to go over the facts and see that this can be done. We can truck it out. Please set up a meeting to get this approved. Let us know what we have to do to get this done. We do have some expert people in our group, and we can meet with people, and that's all I have to say. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to speak today? Yes, sir.
Carl said I live in Ledgewood. The red-haired one over there is the one I'm married to. So, I have a couple of issues. My father was an avid fisherman, and when we moved into Ledgewood, Drake Brook runs right behind our house. Well, if anyone here would like to come, because the people who lived on either side of us would go and say, oh, there's trout in there. My father got a little nervous and said, oh, good. Go down and look, and there's trout, and you can see them in the hole. Well, since Fenimore opened, there are no trout. So that should be one clue as to what's going on at Fenimore, or wherever this pollution's coming from. The other issue is, like Kathy said, my kids are getting sick, other people's kids are getting sick, and this is not a good situation for any of us. And it's really frustrating to me that the DEP, I quote this all the time, and I'm going to quote it here. Every one of you probably saw that movie, The Ghostbusters, the first one, and they got fired. And what did they say? We got to now go to the public sector because they expect results. Well, DEP doesn't have to give any results. In their own words, we only have to worry about one thing, and that's the CO2 or whatever the toxins are they're playing around with up there. But there's more now. I worked in industry for 40 years. If I went and I was on a project and the information I went back to with the engineers didn't support the project, that would get stopped in a minute. Well, DEP has no one to talk to. They do whatever they so choose. In fact, we were at one of our meetings, and after this, you can talk to Mr. Riley. He said that I am important, and my #1 goal is the health and well-being and safety of the town of Roxbury. So the DEP sent letters or communicated with all the other towns around Roxbury and told them about what this issue is. So I came to one of the meetings and I asked the town council, can we send letters to the rest of the town letting them know? Because if the rest of the town knew what was going on, you couldn't get into this building. But they won't do it. I was told no. Well, what's the health and safety then? Do they care? May not. I care. I'm lucky enough, I got 2 houses. I got my mother's house that passed away in September, and Kathy's mother's house. She goes there because she can't stay in our house. Fortunately, the other 2 aren't showing any symptoms, but who knows? So the DEP they only care about one thing, remediation and nothing else. I mean, if I'm designing a product and the TV, for instance, doesn't work, the engineers are going to come back and say, how come the TV doesn't work? Well, I don't know, that's not my responsibility, but my part of the circuit works. Well, you got the DEP saying, we're only interested in this, nothing else. And that's too bad for you. Well, this is a problem. What's it going to take? Somebody to die? And we got proven facts that say, get out of town because it's no good for you. And the town, and you can ask Mr. Riley, ask him when he comes back or when you're in public session, did they ask to have letters sent out to the rest of the town? Because they have the right to know, just like every other town has the right to know. And they're not being told. The DEP even come out with a letter that let everybody else know, but they let the other Roxbury residents know? No. And not only that, they give a letter when you move in and you're certain area toward this dump. I'm past that. So I never got a letter that said they're going to start doing this to Fenimore. No. So there's too many things that got screwed up. Too many people are getting sick. And if I was still having my kids at school, they go out for track, go out for baseball, I'd be screaming about that. So I appreciate you listening to me. I'm sorry I'm boring you, Mr. Attorney, but this is a real important situation. I don't know if anybody lives in Roxbury. The only one that does is Mr. Riley. But you guys have to understand, this is the United States of America. We are the people. This is not Putin telling us what to do and what not to do. And I'm angry that my kids are getting sick, and this whole thing got so out of control, and we got a governor who could care less. Sorry, Mr. Lawyer.
We're ready to wrap up.
I'll wrap up. You got my gist of things, and I really need, we
the people need. In fact, if you get the letters signed, ask Mr. Riley why they don't send the letters out, because I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You'd have 1 million people here.
Thank you. Will, please.
Wilma Fry, New Jersey Conservation Foundation. I think these people are people who live in the Highlands. I feel that this board has some kind of responsibility to react in some kind of positive way to the absolutely horrifying tales of sickness and poor health and anxiety that these people are suffering from. I think that the least this board could do would be to take Annette's notes and all of the materials that the people have submitted and go to the DEP and to the Federal Environmental Protection Agency with the evidence that has been presented to you and advocate for these people that the agencies whose more primary responsibility is to deal with health issues do that. And I think that could make a difference, and it would be something that would be very easy for you to do, and it would mean that your time would have been well spent listening to these poor tales. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to speak tonight? Yes, sir.
Good evening. Bill Morocco. I also live in Roxbury Township, and I just want to thank you for listening to us, because you're one of the few people that will listen to us. The DEP won't talk to us anymore. The Department of Health won't return our calls in relation to our health questions. And all the governor has been doing is discounting our problems, just to take this situation out of the public light. And you have to understand our frustrations, and we're not taking them out on you, but we've been sold a false set of goods, essentially, where we were told that this project was supposed to better the community, and the community is actually worse off than it was. This site, although a landfill, maybe wasn't so bad. The last environmental assessment that was done was in 2005, and that was commissioned by the DEP, and there is a report on that, and the conclusions are that the site did not pose a threat to the environment or to public health. So a lot of us, we don't understand how the site was designated a brownfield. There was no environmental study that was done. It was a tour of the site and a visual inspection, and the next day there was a letter, it was a brownfield. So there's something not right there. We have to live at the mercy of town monitors now. Kids' sporting events are canceled because the air quality is so poor. We have equipment now in smokestacks in our backyards that have deemed our property values worthless. That's the DEP solution to us, and it doesn't work. It breaks down. It broke down 3 times in April, and the exposure comes back. And we have this stress and anxiety that's going to go on for the next 30 years. The problem is, the more we complain and the more we get our issues out, everyone, including the EPA and even judges, say, well, good thing the DEP is there fixing it. We can't stop them. They have to fix it, and they're not fixing it. And there's 2 reasons why they're not fixing it. The first reason is because of the litigation they're involved in. And if you look at the facts, it is presenting them from remediating this site the proper way and performing the necessary site investigation. The second thing is this emergency order that they're operating under, that was signed into law. And it's basically giving them a license to do whatever they want. They don't have to get permits. They don't need an air permit to run an oxidizer. They don't have any oversight. And they basically have no technical requirements for the landfill remediation. This site has Class 1 trout-producing streams running through it. Leachate runs downhill into Ledgewood Pond, which is part of the New Jersey watershed. Hundreds of residents are on well water that live hundreds of feet from the site. Some residents already have some contamination in their wells. The scrubber that they're operating requires 60,000 gallons of water per day, which is a direct violation of the Highlands Act. There's been elevated levels of lead, aluminum, and arsenic found per DEP testing in the leachate. It's only a matter of time before that gets into the water. There's no liner underneath this material. The problem is no environmental investigation has been done since this problem started, so we can't understand how they have any type of remediation plan that they chose, never mind design it. The DEP will not address the residents, the township's concerns, and I have to agree with Dave Pfeiffer that you need to take a vested interest in this land and this project and make sure what the DEP is doing is going to adhere to the regional master plan. You need to look at Section 81K of the Highlands Act, and you need to make sure that the DEP is following it, and that they also follow NJ 726E technical requirements for landfill remediation. This is the only way we will ensure that this site gets remediated the correct way. It doesn't get worse and worse, and we're here every single month for the next 10 years. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak this evening? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Kathy Hart. I live in Succossana, New Jersey. I'd like to express my views about Fenimore and the New Jersey DEP proposal of remediation. I'd like to quote some words of wisdom my mother used to say. When someone tells you something, consider the source. She meant don't just blindly accept a statement. Investigate for yourself and try to determine if there is an ulterior motive by the person giving you that information. In this case, it is clear. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection caused this mess. It didn't happen by accident. At this point, their aim is to cover it up. This is evidenced by their refusal to allow us to even do core soil samples. If they truly felt concern for Roxbury residents, as well as residents in other towns for which we are the source of drinking water, they would want to know the full extent of this environmental disaster. They would then choose the only permanent solution and truck out the hazardous materials to a landfill that complies with their own regulations. In my mind, to follow the plan devised by the New Jersey DEP is the equivalent of being the victim of a robbery and then hiring the thief to change your life. The DEP has robbed the residents. We are robbed of our peaceful enjoyment of our homes. Many have been robbed of their good health, and many more likely will be. We are also robbed financially, as evidenced by the fact that Roxbury is the only town in the area to see our property values go down this past year. As I'm sure you are aware, for most of us, this represents our greatest financial asset. I'm requesting your help to return our community to the beautiful place it was before the DEP brought on this disaster. Please be our advocates. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for listening to the problems of Roxbury Township. My name's Bob Medeiros. I live on Nelron Drive in Ledgewood. Little background, I'm an electrical engineer with 45 years of experience, retired. I'm also an Army Ranger that was trained to observe and seek the land and know what makes it function. I've been fighting this landfill, not from the new landfill, from the old landfill for over 10 years. I brought it up to the town council several times. My main concern is the water contamination. The old landfill was leaching from 50 drums of chemicals into southbound on the landfill, which I followed. I gave a map. I showed the health department, Roxbury's health department. I showed the Morris County Health Department. I've brought up the town council and showed them, and no one seems to listen. Right now, there are two main streams floating right underneath the new landfill. I've proven it 3 separate different ways. I've taken Chris Raff, his town expert, and the town engineer, and showed them how it's leaching out of the new landfill. They seemed doubtful, so I went and I researched and I picked up a 1970 map, photographic map of the landfill as it was beginning to be brought in. And you could see on that map, which is on the website, anybody could pick it up, you could see 2 streams and 4 separate little streams. They still doubted me. I went and I picked up and researched a survey of the landfill, blueprint survey by surveyors. I gave it to them the last council meeting. They claim it's 1995 survey. Obviously, the new landfill went right on top of the old landfill because 1995, it was already filled up. Bill mentioned wells going dry. My well went dry. In the process, I started researching why. I had a surface water well, which I became very familiar about drilling wells and the way they function. Right now, the surface water well was being fed by the southern stream that runs parallel to the landfill, but it was blocked by the gate. And I went up there, I took photographs, which I have and I could present to you. They sealed off the stream completely and shut down the water stream to my well. Therefore, I had to re-drill a new well at my expense of $15,000, which is not the point. The point is the contamination. My small neighborhood has 4 contaminated wells right now that the health department of Roxbury is aware of. I took Chris Raff back up there. Apparently, his appointment was for a week afterwards. They opened up the road stream and it started running again. Well, it's too late for me. I drilled a new well. The water system is being contaminated. I've gone as far as to apply for a water surveyor with the, I forget the name of it, but I just got certified by the DEP to check the water systems. And I will, and I'll present those facts to you. The water is being contaminated. If you walk it, if you see it, there's tires, there's chemicals. It's running right underneath the landfill, the new landfill. It's part of the Ledgewood Pond, which runs right through here, through Chester. I followed it for over 3 miles, smelling it, all the way up to the golf course in Chester, in Flanders. Gentlemen, ladies, I really request your assistance on this, your attention on this. It's not only Roxbury, but it's the entire water system that's flowing down the Rhinelander River. Thank you very much.
Does anybody else wish to speak this evening? Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having us here tonight. Of course. I'm Bob Schultz. I am from Roxbury and also the president of REACT, the local group who has been battling this landfill for over a year now. Bob and Darrell said there was 50 drums on that landfill. There's actually more than that underneath stuff is. We found evidence that there is over 1,500 drums of material in that. And they don't know what classification of material that is, but that has been leaching into the soil, into the water, and possibly even into the air as well. I've been on that landfill, I don't know if any of you have, but I've been on that landfill twice legally as an environmental commission member of my township. I served on my township for over 10 years on the environmental commission, helping out the town in whatever way I could as a volunteer. My term was up this past year, and I was kicked off the environmental commission because they called it a conflict of interest. So I was trying to help out the environment and the people of my town. That was, to me, a big blow to myself, my ego, because I was there to help. And that's really all I wanted to do was help. And that's why I'm here for all these people, is to help out the people of the township and the kids and the residents and the environment. I don't have the power to make a decision to make this all go away. You guys, in this whole process, had one small piece of it, but it's a very large piece, and without that piece, this would have never happened in our township. And that landfill would have stayed the way it was, and everything was contained, as Bill had said, within the site. So what I'm asking all of you guys to do is reconsider your decision and take that exemption away from the DEP and the waiver, because that will give us some power to stop this. Thank you.
Thank you. Only one person is achievement. Anybody else? I would just like to, yes, sir.
Yeah, how you doing? My name is Mark Mineski. I used to be a citizen environmentalist. I am non-degreed. I got lost coming down here today to testify about something else. Still one I can't testify about. But I got, I could say I got the Roxbury-Ledgewood breathing experience. Okay? You are slowly developing a regional problem with this landfill. There's no doubt about it. I got lost, and I drove for miles, and I couldn't get the smell out of my nose and the burning out of my throat and the itchy eyes. I couldn't relieve it. If you don't start acting on this for this community and get this landfill straightened out, you will shortly have a regional problem. And you're not going to be able to fix it. So fix it at the source while you got the chance. That's all I have to say.
Anybody else this evening? Yes, ma'am. Well, use the microphone as best you can. And we don't allow that. I'm sorry. You're welcome to speak, and we'll listen carefully, but you can't give the time to somebody else. Okay. I can assure you we understand your sentiments. I think this is going to be the last call. What I'd like to say, very sincerely and honestly, is I can assure you that myself and my colleagues all get it. We understand what you're going through. And we certainly wish that we had more jurisdiction to perhaps do something to help you, but there are realities in place by law that bind and bound what we can do. I can tell you that I was just elected to be vice chair for the next year. So for the next year, I'm going to be here with you. You'll likely see me rarely miss a meeting. And I can assure you that if there's going to be an issue involving the landfill, I will be here. I'm your neighbor. My family and I lived here in Chester our entire lives. My brother lives in Roxbury. We own a cemetery plot on Pleasant Hill Cemetery, so I'm going to be here when God takes me home. This is not an end tonight. We're certainly going to continue to monitor the situation, but I also don't want to give you any false hopes about what we can do, because there are very real boundaries about what we're capable of doing. Again, our interest in your situation is sincere and genuine. I'm not an elected guy. I'm a working guy. We all serve here for nothing. So we do care. And I assure you that each of us individually wishes we can do more to help your situation, because it's certainly a very difficult situation, more than what we can even begin to comprehend. I can promise you that you can work with our staff. If you wish to get copies of a document that's available to the public that you're not finding on the website, if you want to understand better the timeline or what we can do and what we can't do, what the legislature empowers us to do, our staff will assist you with that. And I can promise you that if you call here, you'll get a real person on the telephone. You're not going to fall into a black hole of prompts trying to find a real person to answer a simple question. And we're right down the road. You can come and knock on the door, and somebody's here during regular business hours. Those things we can promise you right now. And I know that you want more, but those are the things that we can give you right now. And I don't know if any other council members want to speak.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to say something. I think that we clearly have the public bringing to us what is a public health and environmental disaster. And I think this council took action in 2011 to make that area, designate that area a redevelopment area. And I didn't support the vote at that time because I felt that we didn't have enough environmental information about what was entailed at the landfill, and knowing how landfills tend to be toxic dumps across New Jersey, that we were risking a lot of environmental problems if we were to put our stamp of approval on that site as a development site. Also, I have concerns and do not have confidence in DEP's standards for what constitutes the remediation of redeveloped area, particularly landfills, which are notorious for problems. I think at this point, we have certain responsibilities that are put on us by the Highlands Act, and as a water resource agency, we do have broad powers, and we may not have control over what DEP does with brownfields, but I think the suggestion that Mr. Pfeiffer made, and that we should be at the table as this DEP deliberates on this, is a very good one. I think Wilma Fry's suggestions of us sending the entire documentation from these meetings to DEP and to EPA as the agency that oversees DEP and ensures that they are implementing environmental laws the way they should be is an excellent suggestion. We should do that. But I don't think we have to stop there, and I don't think we have to be afraid of lawsuits and hide behind what we might not think we have the jurisdiction to do. We have broad powers, and we are responsible for water resources. And this is obviously not just a Roxbury situation. It's a situation for all of the Highlands, and I propose that we rescind the redevelopment area designation. To that effect? Do we have a second?
A second.
Chief, a motion and a second to rescind the designation of the Fenimore site as a redevelopment area. I believe that before we can act on that motion, we would need to go into an executive session to deal with the potential litigation. I will defer to our attorney to render an opinion on that, but based on what we know, I believe that we would probably need to go into executive session.
No.
Please.
The council has the ability to go into an executive session for your purpose. Were the council to vote that. One concern that I do have is that there has been no public listing and notice of the motion that's on the floor. Really, there should be a motion first to put that question before the council. But even if that were to pass, there's been no public notice that the council is going to act on the redevelopment designation. I would be concerned that the council should get public notice. If it were to do that, it should be listed as an agenda item. So that is an issue with respect to the open public meetings. And with respect to potential litigation, that's a topic that will only be discussed in executive session where the council would choose to do that.
Well, then, what I think we need to do this evening, based on our attorney's advice, is table this motion, place it on the agenda for the next meeting, and then we can take it up then. So I'd like to entertain a motion to table. So moved. Second. Second. And then a roll call on the motion to table, please.
Councilmember Olsted?
Yes.
Councilmember Carluccio?
No.
Councilmember Doherty? Councilmember Doherty?
I second her motion, but lawyers break as far as the rules on public notice. So the motion is to table, as long as the vice chair is going to entertain the motion for tonight's meeting.
We will absolutely allow this to be broadcast.
That's the correct, that is actually the correct ruling by law. It has to be publicly noticed. So I will vote yes to table.
Councilmember Tracy? Councilmember Francis?
Yeah.
Councilmember Halter? Aye. Councilmember James? Councilmember Richko?
Yes.
Councilmember Sevicich? Councilmember Teepan? Councilmember Godin?
Yes.
Councilmember Wall?
Yes.
Motion is carried. So we will carry this on to our next agenda. We will publish this. The next meeting is June 19th, if I am not mistaken. And I will offer you full disclosure, I am flying in from Germany that day. And if everything's on time with United Lufthansa, I will be here about 4:30 or so, and be here in plenty of time to take up the agenda. If for some reason I'm delayed, I don't want you to think I'm hiding. I will get here and they will know, and if I'm not here, somebody will take care of my position, probably the treasurer on the meeting. So I just want you to know up front that if I'm late, it's not because I don't care and I don't want to be here. And I'm trying to get in earlier.
Vice Chair?
Yes.
Can I ask one question? You and direct it to you, direct it to the attorney. In public law, in chapter 120 on page 6, we're under the power of duties and responsibility of the council. Can the lawyer prepare a memo to a better understanding of our responsibilities and our rights as a council? Because in this section, C13, 20-6, it talks about conducting examinations and investigations, your testimony taken under oath in public or private hearings on any matter, material matter, to require attendance of witness to production of books and papers to solicit reports. And it also talks about preparing to talk to the Commissioner of Environmental Protection. But it doesn't clearly state, does that mean that the council has subpoena powers?
I work for you, so if you give me an assignment, I will do it and report back to you.
If you could research that section where it's power, duty, responsibility of council, because I am not an attorney, So I don't know what this means, but if I look at it as far as a layman looks at it, it looks like we may have a little more teeth than we think as far as hearing testimony, bringing any material matter that may affect some movements. I don't know, maybe nothing, but it doesn't say subpoena power. It might not have any teeth. So if you could research that section, I agree.
Sir?
Okay. Any other council members? And I believe we will entertain a motion to close the meeting. So the second. Roll call. Get a second? I see. Oh, second. Roll call. Voice adjourned.
Jim Riley's a criminal. Send him to